Here he is, former Vancouver Canuck and TSN hockey analyst, Mr. Frank Corrado. How are you?
I'm good, boys. What's going on over there?
You got playoff fever?
Yeah, I got a fever, all right. Just, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with that. But yeah, it's just, yeah, it's been a lot of late nights, but it's been good, you know. The first round was awesome. And we keep doing this to ourselves because we talk about how much we want 1 through 8 because it's the right and just thing to do. And then the first round rolls along, and what do? We all hop on Twitter and we talk about how awesome the first round is. We got to stop doing that. If we want 1 through 8, we got to stop doing that. But it was an awesome first round.
Do you want 1 through 8?
I do, yeah. I like 1 through 8.
Okay.
I just think it's in a league where, I mean, we've talked about this before, but in a league where we always want to do right by everyone, right? Like we got the offside review, the coach's challenge review, the high stick review, got every review possible because it's like we have to get it right. So let's not force feed teams that shouldn't be playing each other in the first round. Let's make it as fair and as just as possible. But when you see what we got in the first round,
that's it.
Those were some pretty awesome series, man. So it's hard to argue with the result of what we've got.
My point has always been, as somebody who likes this playoff format, the NHL is a regional league. You've got to stoke regional rivalries. This does so better than 1 through 8. I mean, we got the Battle of Ontario this year and Battle of Florida in the first round. Not to mention LA and Edmonton, although that might get a little dreary after 4 in a row with the same result. But, like, there would have been no guarantees of Dallas, Colorado, right? Like, upsets happen all the time. At least we got Dallas and Colorado, even if it was a round or 2 earlier than people would have
that's
hoped.
what people would
and
say.
And to get them fresh, right? Like, so if you get Dallas and Colorado late in the playoffs, who's banged up, who's not playing, like you're rolling the dice a little bit. You would think, you know, teams are somewhat locked in down the stretch, so there's an element of load management. You're getting, well, we didn't get it because Dallas was missing 2 key players, but theoretically, you're getting the best version of each of those teams right off the bat. So there's something to be said for that.
We just haven't seen a lot of churn in the teams in the playoffs. So I think people are just a little bit bored because there's been a lot of teams that are at the bottom of the league that have been there for a long time. And so, hey, at 1 versus 8, you're not seeing them anyway. But I think the sentiment is that people just haven't seen a whole lot of new matchups because we've had a lot of the same teams in the playoffs. It feels like there's only been a variation of, 4 teams every single year in the playoffs year to year. So I think that's as much about the boredom as anything else.
And Blake, you know what I wonder? Like if they do get into expansion and we get 2 more teams, how much harder is it going to be if you're a have-not to become a have in the NHL?
Yeah.
Right? Because if the talent pool is the talent pool. There's only so many superstar elite players. So those teams that have them, they're going to do everything they can to possibly keep them. So how do you become, I don't know, how do you turn the corner other than you have to draft high for, I don't know, half a decade and then hope that your next 5 years after that, you turn those guys into players. It's like a 10-year plan. I'm just thinking, like, this is just off the top of my head. Outside of that, you can't really, I don't know how you flip it. It's going to be hard with all these teams in the mix.
Before we leave the big view of the playoffs, the Canucks own the most dramatic team off the ice in the National Hockey League. Of that, there is no doubt. Are the Oilers amongst the league leaders and most dramatic team on the ice? Their ability to score and give up goals is profound.
No.
No?
Well, they were
Leafs. It's always the Leafs.
There's a lot of drama
In the
with
playoffs, maybe, yes. If you just isolated it to playoffs.
Yeah.
But
do you want to we can make Edmonton's win about the Leafs if you want. Like who scored the 2 goals to win the game and then get the insurance.
Are
Zach
any of them ex-Leafs? Zach Hyman from Toronto. Okay.
Brown.
Enough with our Sports Center production meeting here, though. Let's.
Yeah. There's that Twitter account, Toronto Sports Network.
But that's what I'm saying. As an objective observer, like watch an Oiler game, like it's usually pretty fun to watch.
Wow, Edmonton, Vegas in particular is fun.
That's big boy hockey that we saw last night.
It sure is.
And you know what? Like Edmonton beat Vegas at their own game. Like they out Vegased Vegas last night, and that was 2 years ago. You watch that series, there is no room for McDavid and Draisaitl at 5-on-5. They basically had to rely on their power plays. Vegas shut it completely down. And last night, Edmonton shut it down at 5-on-5. They get the power play goal early. They make one mistake on a rush with Corey Perry over back checking that leads to the second Mark Stone goal. And that was it. It was in complete lockdown mode. They only gave up one shot in the second period. Throughout the last 40 minutes of the game, only 4 shots for Vegas at 5-on-5. That was a clinic. And I guess the thing about the Oilers is if they're going to play like that, you're going to get good performances from 97 and 29. And if you continue to get the depth scoring, I mean, that's the best recipe for that team. They're hard to beat when they're like that. And now we're seeing that, they're never out of a game, 5 straight wins in a row where they come from behind. That's pretty remarkable for them to be doing that. And they're resilient, and they're never out of it.
All right. Do you want to carry on with your pet project here, or should we take the discussion in a different direction?
Well, I have already thrown Marco Rossi your way earlier this off-season near the end of the regular season. And now Marco Rossi himself is bringing gasoline and matches to the fire here because he's talked about how unhappy he was being on the fourth line at the end of the season for the Minnesota Wild. 5'9" centers generally don't leap off the page for guys like Bill Guerin, I wouldn't guess, power forward in his own NHL career. Is there a match there for the Canucks to either offer sheet or B, just trade for?
Boy, of course there's a match there because of the need at center ice. But I think the Canucks wouldn't be the only team that would look at a guy like Marco Rossi and say, he's not even 24 years old. He just had a 60-point year. There's more there. And you bring him in, that's a guy who can potentially do something for you. I think he's a hell of a player. I think he's highly competitive. Despite what he would lack in size and stature, he plays hard. And the thing is, he wouldn't have had the regular season success playing for a team like Minnesota if he wasn't competitive, if he didn't play hard. You're not going to play. You're not going to get the opportunities. So credit to him. He did it in the regular season. But it just, we can all do the math, right? We know what kind of team Billy Guerin picked for Team USA. We know the kind of player he was. We know what kind of players the Minnesota Wild covet. They went out the trade deadline and they spent a ton to get Justin Brazeau from Boston. Do the math there. Marco Rossi at 5'9". I mean, it's easy to say that maybe he's not in the plans there. So with that being said, I think the phone will be pretty busy as far as teams inquiring about him. And I think Vancouver should be, one of the top teams as far as calling and blowing up Billy Guerin's phone to try and get a player like that. He's young. There's a lot of upside, and you could find a way to get him locked up for a significant period of time on a good cap hit. I mean, how do you not try and entertain that?
Do you think, and granted they don't have a general manager right now, but do you think the Islanders jumping all the way to the number 1 pick, do you think that changes the equation for them? Could you see Horvat, Barzal, something like that, shaking free, given who they could add there?
Turn a page, too. Yeah. Chance to turn the page.
Given they're going to have a new manager.
I know. So, as you guys know, I do a lot of Habs games. And, they're always asking me in that market, because I do hits there, about a second-line center, because that's the big thing that they need to address. And, obviously, if you look at the UFA market, it's limited, and the prices are going to be expensive for a guy like Sam Bennett. And they also need someone who's different than what they currently have, meaning Suzuki's not huge, Newhook's not big, Evans is not big. So they need someone who's a little more robust. So the name that, that market kind of likes is Bo Horvat. That would make a lot of sense, and you'd be replacing Christian Dvorak, who's a really good left-handed faceoff guy, with Bo Horvat, who's a left-handed guy who can dig in on faceoffs. It makes all the sense in the world. And the thing that Montreal would have going for them is there's just a litany of prospects and picks that they've accumulated over the years that you can part with some of these things and not feel so bad. So you have that to offer. As far as the Islanders and what they want to do moving forward, it's an interesting market and an interesting team because New York is massive and it's easy to get lost there if you kind of just, if you're not pushing a message, right? So if you want to push the message and say, we are going into like a little 5-year mini rebuild here, we'll see you on the other side, you'd have to probably put that out there. If you're wishy-washy in the middle, well, that's when it probably doesn't go well based on the clientele that would be attending those games. And then, the other side of that is, do you not even entertain it and say, well, we're going to get probably a franchise defenseman in Matthew Schaefer. He's not going to change the franchise. Like, he's not a McDavid type. He's a very, very good defenseman. And obviously it's a different position. So defensemen do take a little bit of time before they can alter things. But maybe they look at it and say, well, now we're in business. We got this kid, and we're just going to keep this thing rolling and try and milk it for as long as we can. I don't know. Like, I think the right move for the Islanders is to probably kind of build around your young guy here and see if you can, retool it somehow. But who knows what they'd be thinking. And it also depends on who they hire.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot there because whoever takes over has inherited a lot of contractual commitments for a good number
Bo
of
as a
years.
Bo as a teacher makes sense. I don't know that Matt Barzal's got quite the same reputation as Bo in terms of being, like Bo could take you through a rebuild. Bo could take you through a reload.
Oh, poor Bo. That's all he knows.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. Like, wouldn't at one point, wouldn't he just be like, I want to try and win something here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You were in Pittsburgh with Rick Tockett and Jason Botterill when he was an AGM there under Jim Rutherford. Botterill since went on to Buffalo and now has found himself as the new GM in Seattle. And the report that they have interviewed Rick Tocchet. What do you think of the fit there?
It's interesting because the Seattle, I mean, what are you kind of clinging to that says I'm going to be able to win with that team? Like, there's not a lot of superstar power, right? Like, you get a certain job. You're like, I can see where things are going here. Like, for example, any coach that ever took over Edmonton was like, well, I have Connor McDavid, I have the best player in the world. Like, Craig Berube.
Even the
took
Canucks
over
with
Toronto.
Hughes.
Right.
Canucks with Hughes.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say even to a certain degree, a lesser degree, with Todd McClellan taking over Detroit, like, I can work with Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond and Marco Kasper and what I'm still getting out of Dylan Larkin. 'Cause you know what I mean? Like, you can kind of see it. With Seattle, it's like there's not that superstar power. So there's a lot of work there for a coach to try and move that team along. So I don't know. It's also, I feel like that team in that market might need to win relatively soon. Right? Like that's going to be a priority there. And we've talked about Philly, or I've brought it up on your show, like maybe Philly's a good fit for a coach like Tocchet because he can kind of expand his lifespan there as long as he really wants, right? Because the pieces aren't in place. So, you're not getting judged by wins and losses quite yet. I think in Seattle, you go in there, it's like, you're the former coach of the year. You have this, reputation for what kind of style you coach, playoffs next year. And it's like, well, maybe, I don't know. They don't have the guns. Like they don't have the ponies to kind of turn it around that fast. So that would be, that would be an interesting position for a coach like that to kind of put himself just right back into the fire right away.
Do you think he's going to be tempted by TV with this little sojourn back to TNT? He gets reminded here pretty shortly that you stay undefeated all season long. You may not make as much money, but you know where you're going every week, which is one place.
Yeah.
And you're undefeated all season. Do you think that's tempting for him, or do you think now that he's bitten from the forbidden fruit again, that he's going to be sucked back into the coaching ranks?
I think it just makes him more selective. Like he doesn't feel like he has to take a job just for the sake of taking a job. Like, there's no desperate situation because he'll go once a week or whatever it is in the playoffs. He'll make his money. He'll talk about hockey. People will love listening to him because he's got a lot of great insight. And life is pretty good. And you're right. You're not judged by wins and losses, in that arena per se. So I'm sure there would be some temptation there. I think it always just comes down to how much video do you want to crunch, with how much work do you want to give yourself? You still have that fire to say, like, I need to prove myself more as a coach in the NHL. Like, I mean, those are all things that he would grapple with. But you can't argue the fact that he's going to make not as much money, but a ton of money to talk about hockey and sit on the panel and have a great time with the fellas. I mean, it's pretty tempting, and you can do it for a long, long time.
Frank, you once went on a deep playoff run with Travis Green and the Utica Comets. Tell me, what could a deep playoff run do for prospects and development here with the Abbotsford Canucks?
It teaches you how to win. And I think that's a part of development that people take for granted. When it comes to the AHL, people talk about, young players, they got to play, they got to get ice time, and they got to develop. That's part of it. But you have to develop winning habits. Like, you have to learn how to win. If you're just out there playing and getting your ice time and getting your reps and getting your touches, I mean, at the NHL level, it's only going to take you so far. And there's nothing like kind of learning the grind and how to handle it and how to, kind of work through the different moments of tension and uncertainty come playoff time and battle through the injuries and the uncomfortability. So there's that aspect of it, which I think is, you can only get that in the playoffs, regardless of what level you play at. So that's the biggest thing. And then the other thing for the players, like individually, if you can get branded as a guy who's a winner or a guy who's like consistently on teams that are going deep in the playoffs, that does a lot for you. Like, everyone's watching you now in the spring. So there's more eyeballs on you. There's more noticing maybe the subtleties in your game. There's more noticing, this is a big game. How did this guy play? What was his body language like? And you can capitalize on all that stuff if you're going on these types of runs, or if you're going on this run. So, the team success in these situations kind of breeds individual success. And this is a great opportunity for those guys, but more importantly, like, it just teaches you how to win. I'll give you an example quickly. Like, the Belleville Senators, when I played there, that was the year that COVID shut the whole year down. We're the best team in the Eastern Conference. And we had Batherson, Norris, Brandstrom, Parker Kelly, Wolanin, Phil Gustafson, Joey Decord. And that playoff run got robbed from those guys. And I can't help but wonder, like, if they got to go on that long run, would Ottawa and those guys, like, would they have made the playoffs sooner? Like, would that have helped them kind of realize how hard it is to win? Maybe, but you always kind of look back at those moments and those battles and say, like, that was the true test right there. And I have that experience now. I have that highlight reel.
What do you think's going on for a guy like Ratu? Guys like Shilovs are riding this. They're almost renovating their status as a prospect in the organization. Other guys like Sasser are doing pretty well. Lekramaki's been in a slump and then hurt, so it's hard to evaluate him in the playoffs. But Ratu was a point per game over the final 2 weeks in the NHL. He goes down to the AHL for the playoffs, and it's not working for him. What do you think that's because of?
It's a different game. It is a different game from the NHL to the AHL, and sometimes it can be sloppy, and it's hard for some guys to adjust to the sloppier kind of game. Like, the way I always kind of described it was, in the NHL, when you have the puck, things can come easier for you. Guys are open, guys are available, guys are in their spots. To get it back was always much more difficult, because the other team, they're open for each other, they're in their spots, they're making plays. In the AHL, it's easier to get it back, but then once you have it, it's harder to make the plays because it's a little sloppier. Not everyone's as cohesive. And so for a guy like Ratu, that might be where he struggles with it right now, going back down. It's like, well, I was just in the NHL, and I know when I had the puck here, I had option 1, I had option 2. And now he's like, I got the puck here, and option 1's half a step late, and option 2's nowhere to be found. So I'm screwed. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the difference. Sense. That's the difference between the AHL and the NHL. So it is a little bit of an adjustment period, and he's just got to find a way to work that out. But a guy like that, like, really should be no excuses for him to not produce going back to the AHL. Like, you want to play in the NHL and you have success, you kind of have to dominate these moments. Like, that's what it's all about. You have to prove that this level, you're no longer fit for this level anymore. And so that's the challenge for him with the playoffs.
Frank, final question for me. It's a tough one, bud. You played in Utica. You played in Scranton. You played in Belleville. Not to disparage any of those communities. No. Prince Edward County, Ontario is a lovely spot. Lovely. They can actually grow wine there. They have some nice beaches, Blake. I'm not sure if
I've
been.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you think you do playing AHL hockey in Palm Springs, California?
I'll tell you how I would do. When I tore my quadriceps tendon, I had enough. I had had a high ankle sprain. I'd had an ACL surgery, and I had the quadriceps tendon rupture. And I had basically missed, 18 months out of the previous 24 months of hockey. I called my agent, God bless him, Joe Resnick, great guy, great agent. I said, Joe, I'm ready to play. I'm cleared. I said, I am instructing you to please reach out to teams that are in nice, warm climates. I'm talking San Diego. I'm talking Ontario. I'm talking Bakersfield. I'm talking Texas. If it is like 15 degrees and over in the winter, please tell those teams that I'm available and ready to play.
I am ready to play below the Mason-Dixon line.
And he came back to me. He came back to me about a week later. He goes, I got nothing for you. And he goes, here's what I got for you. He goes, I got a PTO in Belleville or Binghamton. And I said, boy. Joe, that ain't warm. That is not what I'm looking for.
The Northeast does not
it's time to call it a career. Yeah.
So I took the Belleville one, and I really enjoyed my time in Belleville, and I'm happy I went there. But yeah, so that's to let you know how I would do in a place like Palm Springs. Probably pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. Wouldn't we all? That's
awesome.
Awesome stuff. You'll always have a place with us, Frank Corrado.
Mildly warmer.
Yeah. Thank you for this, and until next week.
See you, fellas.